Now available in paperback and coming to Kindle Unlimited. John Haynes, Dark Succubus. The man who rules the world is tempted by a sultry succubus in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, Dark Succubus in paperback or pre-order on Kindle Unlimited today. Last week, there was a viral video of one of these beta males throwing a tantrum inside of a Bagel Boss store here in Long Island. And as this beta male was throwing this tantrum, I began to take a critical examination of everything he said, and I began to understand why he was behaving the way that he was. Now, after I run the video of this tantrum, I'm going to go a bit more in depth analyzing every action and reaction that this beta male participated in. So take a look at the clip and get a picture of this beta male in action.
Degrade women. Why is that okay?
Why is it okay for women to say, oh, you're 5 feet on dating sites? You should be dead? That's okay?
Who said that to you here? Nobody.
Women in general have said it on dating sites. You think I'm making that shit up? Yeah. Everywhere I go, I get the same fucking smirk with the biting lip. Shut your mouth. You're not God or my father or my boss. Dude, you want to step outside? You want to step outside? Huh? I'm not scared of you, pal.
Enough.
You shut up, too.
Shut the fuck up.
Go ahead and attack me, big.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I just wanted bagels. I recorded that.
Take a critical examination of this incident in this Bagel Boss store in Long Island. I can see where this beta male began making his mistakes. And this beta male's biggest mistake was, first, his perception of self. Now, this beta male is 5 feet tall, and there's nothing wrong with a man being 5 feet tall if a man has confidence about himself. But this beta male has absolutely no confidence and low self-esteem, and because he has no confidence and low self-esteem, what this beta male does in the beginning is leave a poor first impression of himself on others because he has a poor perception of himself overall. And because he has a poor perception of himself, he feels inadequate about himself, and that really lowers his own perception of self, which lowers other people's perception of him. Now, this lack of confidence is shown in his body language and as he engages what appears to be 2 women in the store, and it appears that the women are having a conversation with him, and they ask him, is it okay for men to be misogynistic? And he, instead of him being able to think critically and throw back a playful retort at the women, what he does is he gets defensive and emotional. And when he gets defensive and emotional, what this beta male does is he destroys his first impression on people, and he leaves that negative first impression on those women as he starts to explode in a rage. Because from what I saw in the video, the women in the video, they were on the fence about this guy, and they probably were thinking there might be something wrong with him, but he might have some valid arguments. But because this man couldn't articulate his argument, what he did was get into his emotions. And as he got into his emotions, he began to leave that negative first impression on those women. Now, what this beta male didn't understand was that when you're having a social interaction in public like this is actually one of the best situations to be in, but because of his low self-esteem, he couldn't see the place that he was. Here he was talking directly to women in public, And because of his low self-esteem, he gets defensive instead of just relaxing and just letting the conversation flow. But that's the big problem with beta males. They don't understand how to interact socially, primarily because a lot of these guys grew up in primarily homes with either single mothers or homes with beta male fathers, because those men who go out here and know how to socially interact with people understand that a social interaction in a place like that bagel boss shop is a great opportunity to meet women. And if you're having a conversation with a woman like this and they make a statement like that, or an inquiry like she's asking, is it okay for a man to be misogynistic? Then you just come across and present an argument, or you just throw back a playful retort and let it slide. That's what a guy does when he understands how to converse with women in public. But when it comes down to beta males, they don't have much social experience with women, and because they don't have much social experience with women, they get defensive and emotional like this beta male did, and start talking about, is it okay for women to reject guys because they're short or something like that. And then as he threw the newspaper down and went into a rage, the entire conversation crumbled and collapsed. And as he exploded into the rage, the woman got defensive. And what this beta male did as he went out here and got into that rage was he proved that woman's point about him and validated all of her fears about how deeply dysfunctional this beta male is. And then she acted, because she probably didn't know him from Bob down the street and was just probably trying to talk to him and find out what was going on. But this guy, because he was not in control of his emotions and had this negative perception of self, he decides to go into this rage, and he decides to throw down this newspaper. And she asks us the question, and that's when he makes a very major mistake in terms of a conversation with a woman. Now, when it comes down to these beta males, one of the big troubles with them is the fact that they are very emotional, and this jams them up every time. And oftentimes when a beta male is emotional, he will start volunteering information he should not volunteer in a conversation. And he does that because he is extremely insecure about himself, feels inadequate about himself, and he's hurting on the inside, and he's looking for ways to hurt other people. So when it comes down, but the irony is he hurts himself. But the big problem with the beta male when he volunteers information is it further reinforces the perception in people's minds that this man is extremely weak and he's someone they shouldn't respect. And when this beta male volunteered the information that he was upset about women rejecting him, and then talking about his experiences on online dating sites where women told him that because he was 5 feet, he should be dead, he put the nail in the coffin for himself in terms of anybody seeing him as someone respectable in that bagel shop. Because when he volunteered that information that he was rejected on online dating sites, one, he showed everybody there that he had a low sense of self-worth, and two, he showed everybody that he believed he was worthless because he went on an online dating site. Now, when it comes down to social interactions overall, online dating is not something anybody wants to do or anybody even wants to talk about, because men who go on online dating sites, these are extremely weak men, and men with extremely poor social skills, and men who have no confidence whatsoever. So in addition to showing how weak he was in his social interactions with those women, he volunteered information that showed that he was really a pathetic man with absolutely nothing they should see as viable or respectable, because online dating is what weak men do. Men who have confidence, they take opportunities like that bagel shop right there, and as they're in that bagel shop, they are going to be having a smile on their face, they're going to be charming, and they're going to be engaging. And it's not their size that's going to attract women to them, it is their confidence and their presence, and that's going to attract women to them. And if you've got a great sense of humor, you're really going to get a woman laugh. You can really engage her. Unfortunately, this beta male was so caught up in his feelings of inadequacy about his height that he couldn't see the opportunity in front of him with those women. And not only that he was talking to, but women all throughout the store. And all he had to do was put on a smile on his face and throw out a few jokes, and he might have actually made a connection. Unfortunately, because of his low self-esteem, poor self-worth, and poor self-image, this beta male decided to go into this rage, confessed that he was online dating, and then told them that he was even being rejected on these online dating sites by saying that he was being rejected for being 5 feet tall, and that women were telling him he should be dead. And the whole statement he made right there not only showed how weak he was, but it also showed how he really was approaching even the wrong women for online dating. Now, most of the women on online dating are extremely sad and pathetic, but it looks like this guy had the same dysfunctional ideas that your Elliot Rodger had, looking to go out here and pursue women who he had absolutely nothing in common with. He was probably looking for these so-called hot women, these so-called sexy women, and that was probably because of his feelings of inadequacy about himself, and he hoped to overcompensate by putting an extremely attractive woman on his arm so that people wouldn't see the flaws related to him, namely his insecurities about his height. And that's probably why he was getting rejected on dating sites, because he was probably going on these online dating sites looking for these pictures of attractive women, dropping these extremely thirsty comments, volunteering information about being short, and then the whole situation deteriorates into this extremely bad situation. So that's probably what was going on with this 5 foot tall guy. Was he was volunteering information because he was feeling bad about himself, and he was approaching dating and relationships from the perception of his negative sense of image. So when I look at his behavior, it was troubling at that point. And then as he was going out here screaming at the women, that's when more and more of his insecurity started flaring up. And in order to try to make an impression on those women, he decided to show out by getting in the face of several of these guys in the bagel shop. He gets in the face of one guy and starts pointing his finger in his face and talks about how he's not his father and he's not his God and he's not his boss. And he's getting in this guy's face because he's thinking that if he can get in the face of one of these bigger men and bring them down either with his mouth or his hands, what he can do is impress those two women. And what he's doing is he's not impressing those women by getting in the face of those guys. He's actually showing those women that he's weak because he's got to go out here and get in the face of another man because he has an issue with another woman. And the issue he had was with that other woman who questioned him, and because he could not answer her with a valid argument about his points, what he did was he exploded in this rage because he couldn't attack her directly, because when it comes down to these beta males like this, a lot of times these guys are misogynists, and they don't want to attack the woman directly because a lot of times when it comes down to these misogynists, they have a deep-seated fear of these women, and they also fear getting attacked if they attacked the woman, because she was presenting an argument to him, and because he could not articulate a talking point, he decided to explode in this rage, because when it comes down to the beta male, he fears female authority. So he goes into this rage, yells and rants about how he cannot get a relationship with women, and how women tell him at 5 feet tall he should be dead. And then after that, he starts getting in the face of other men, because he sees other men as weaker than the women, and because he sees other men as weaker than the woman, he looks to go out here and attack the men. However, one guy was just remaining calm, and he just brushed it off, which is what a man should do in the face of an insecure beta male like this. But another man, who I believe was bald, he tackled this beta male, and he tackled the beta male because he saw how weak the beta male was, and what he wanted to do was physically put the beta male in his place. So he was letting the beta male know with that tackle that this is just a small sampling of what he was going to get if he continued to get in his face. And after he did that tackle, a lot of people got scared, and that's when the woman he had the initial argument with then pulled back and said, "I just came here to get some bagels." So the woman he was having the conversation with, what happened was he destroyed his whole impression on her, and she then retreated because she saw that there was something deeply wrong with this man. Now, if this man could articulate his points as related to his argument, he might have actually managed to have some sort of impression on this woman. But because he decided to get emotional, it all exploded, and it made him look weaker in the face of not only that woman, but other women inside of this bagel shop. And it also made him look weak in terms of a man, because as this situation deteriorated, this guy did what other beta males usually do, and attacking another man. And then as he's beat down by this other man, and this man didn't even beat him down, he just tackled him, he then looked even weaker in front of everybody. And then after that, he goes into another explosive verbal tirade. And as he's going into this verbal tirade, what happens is he eventually gets escorted out of the bagel shop, and this man doesn't understand what just happened here, in that he has made himself look extremely weak, and he's made himself look extremely weak because of his actions, and those actions were based primarily on his perception of self. When I look at this beta male, I see a textbook beta male as related to social interactions, and when it comes down to these beta males out here, what usually leads to them having these interactions with women that wind up failing is the fact that they approach them very emotionally, and they oftentimes do that because they pedestalize women and they worship women, and instead of them seeing women as people, they wind up going out here and they go out here and make the mistake of trying to get really defensive whenever a woman challenges whatever they say. Now, again, just like I said previously, any other guy on getting that argument presented to them, what they're going to do is bring up valid talking points, and some guys will even joke and say that they aren't misogynistic at all, and that they are just being a guy, and that would be the end of it. But this beta male, because he got intimidated by this woman, he got defensive, he got argumentative, and I believe that this man is deeply troubled, because when I look at his actions, they remind me eerily of the actions of Elliot Rodger and many of the incels I read about as I was doing research for my book, The Man Crisis. And when I look at this guy, I see a man in crisis, a man who really does not understand what it means to be a man who probably came from a home with a beta male father, a man who learned how to submit to female authority and felt intimidated when challenged by who he believed to be a female authority figure, and was upset primarily because he could not come up with a response to challenge the women who he felt had more power than he did. And this guy then exploded in a rage, again, volunteering that information because he felt weak in the presence of those women, not only understanding that he was further weakening his position in front of those women, talking about online dating and online dating sites. And that showed how little self-confidence this man had, how little self-worth he had, and how little he didn't understand the world of relationships and dating. Because, as I stated in my book, Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance, there are numerous opportunities to meet women outside of places like work and school, and places like this Bagel Boss shop were the perfect opportunity to meet women. I mean, here he was standing there having a conversation with two women, and he could have made a very powerful impression on them by presenting an articulate and intelligent argument, making some playful retorts as terms of jokes, and he could have left a powerful first impression on them overall. But because he was in his feelings about insecurity about being 5 feet tall, he didn't understand that it is not the height of a man that makes him tall in the eyes of a woman. It is his perception of self that makes him tall overall. Now, I'm about 5'6", 5'7", but I always see myself as a guy with a 6 foot tall presence, and I always carry myself with a 6 foot tall presence, and this is something that makes me attractive to women. And when I'm having conversations with women, back in the day when I was working at Strive, oftentimes when I would go to represent them at different places, oftentimes I would leave a strong impression on them. In some cases, I would actually get phone numbers when I wasn't looking to get phone numbers. And that's all due to confidence. When a man is confident out here and he radiates a strong masculine presence, women are going to be attracted to that no matter what size the guy is. A guy can be 5 feet tall, 5'6" tall, 5'9" tall. And if he's appearing to be confident and strong, he's going to get the attention of women because women love confidence. Moreover, if he goes out here and shows that he values himself by putting on really nice clothes and getting his hair cut and a shave, he's going to leave a very, very powerful first impression on women. Because when I would go out here and I would put on my Brooks Brothers shirts and my designer jeans and my nice Timberland Chelsea boots, I would put on a very strong, well-dressed, masculine presence, and that would attract women to me. And oftentimes I would have women looking at me from afar. And again, it's all about who you are and how you see yourself on the inside. Because how you see yourself on the inside, that's what's going to be radiated and reflected on the outside. Because when you see yourself as somebody having value, then you're going to attract the attention of women who see you as valuable, and they're going to want to engage you and connect with you. And this guy, when I looked at his body language, I looked at the way he was dressed, he was not presenting himself as any sort of man that any woman would want to pay attention to. His body language was weak, his attitude was weak, his expressions were weak, and he was sending a message to those women that in the Bagel Boss shop that he was a weak man, and he was sending a message to them that he was someone they did not need to respect or regard. And he showed how much of a hatred he had for women in the way he was talking to them, because the way he was talking to them, exploding and getting angry, he was showing them that they had power over him and that he had no power over himself. And again, a guy who had power over himself, he would just brush it off by presenting a point nonchalantly about his argument, or he would have laughed it off and said, misogynist, I'm not a misogynist, I'm just a guy who understands how things are between men and women, and that would have been the end of it. And that would have left a stronger impression on people than the way this man overreacted, because when he overreacted, he showed how insecure he was and how he was overcompensating to cover for his feelings of inadequacy. But when I take that final examination of this beta male, he is just like a lot of the beta males I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And in The Man Crisis, I talk about how these beta males are completely unprepared for the world of women. And when I look at this video, I see a man who was completely unprepared for the world of women and did not know how to handle a social interaction with a woman in a public place. And this is why he wound up going on online dating and also wound up failing on online dating, because he was completely unprepared for the world of women, unprepared for the world of relationships with women. And the end result of him being completely unprepared by his father and other men in the community was the explosive outrage that you saw out there, and him being tackled and humiliated like a junior high school kid back in the 7th or 8th grade who is being picked on by bigger kids. And this sadly happened because this guy decided, because he was dealing with issues from his childhood, that he wound up getting humiliated, probably just like he did many years ago when he was a child. And the whole thing was embarrassing to watch, because I saw a man in crisis, a man who had not been prepared with male life skills, male survival skills, or male social skills, and it all showed in the emotional display you saw in that Bagel Boss shop, a shop where he could have easily not only picked up a bagel, but he could have also probably picked up a phone number if his head was in the game. If you want to learn more about the dysfunctional behaviors of beta males like the one in this Bagel Boss shop, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, in paperback, Kindle, Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Barnes & Noble by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to learn how to not make mistakes like this guy in the Bagel Boss shop, you can pick up my book, Stop Simpin', Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance, in paperback and Kindle format, and Smashwords and the iBookstore by clicking the link to Amazon.com. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, and my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to see, again, more content like this, just stay tuned. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, ISIS, All That Glitters. The goddess next door takes on a bikini-clad bank robber in this action-packed, all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS, All That Glitters in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.